order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live here and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. Okay, so before we kind of get into this, if we could just go around. I know a couple of you, some of you are new faces for me, so if we could maybe, and I might be a new face for you, so if we could just kind of go around and introduce ourselves, and maybe for the students, if you could just let me know like what grade you're in, or let us know what grade you're in, just so we have an idea of where you're at. We'll start on this side.
I'm Paige Shavansky. I'm a junior.
Hi, Paige.
I'm Marielle Henley. I'm also a junior.
I'm Silas Bailey, and I'm a senior.
Don Myers, School Committee.
Kathy Lewis, School Committee.
Patty DeBoer, Superintendent.
Andrew Kelly, senior.
Eve Main, junior.
And Brian.
Brian leads the school committee.
Okay, thank you everyone. So we got some juniors and seniors, great. So now what we're gonna do next, we're gonna ratify the agenda of October 11th, 2023. That agenda is to review the school committee student rep handbook, to review the school committee goals and create student advisory council goals. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Massachusetts Association of Student Representatives. We're going to introduce the website, their social media, a networking event, and the delegate assembly. We're going to go over procedures and processes for like how all of this works. We're going to talk about MMHS programming. And then we're going to vote for an approval of student advisory committee, school committee meeting calendar. And then any items not known in advance of this agenda, and then by then we will be done. So,
Just a point of order,
sure.
Madam Chairman, Chairperson. This is a joint meeting, correct?
Correct.
I believe they have to bring their meeting into order also.
Okay.
I guess we're just gonna bring our meeting to order. I don't know, I've never done this before, sorry.
I mean, typically, because it's a hybrid meeting, technically we should do like a roll call, which we didn't do, and just to establish the quorum, but you can, I think that counts, does it not, Don?
Yeah,
I mean, we can.
close enough.
Okay.
Going forward.
Going forward, we'll make sure that we call both meetings to order in the proper way and have it kind of listed separately, I guess, as different agenda items.
Particularly if they're voting on stuff.
Yes. Okay. So that being said, I will entertain a motion to ratify the agenda of October 11th.
Motion.
Thank you, Brian. And we need a second.
So I guess this is our agenda, so I'll second that.
Okay. And then, I'm just trying to think. It is a joint, so yes, they can vote. So yeah, we'll just go around the table, roll call, I guess. And just remind me of your names again, I'm sorry.
Paige Shavansky.
Yes or no? Do you vote for the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Marielle?
Yes.
And Silas?
Yes.
Don?
Don Myers, yes.
Kathy Lewis, yes.
Andrew Kelly, yes.
Brian?
Brian, yes.
Okay, great. All right, next is to review the school committee student rep handbook. So you all should have in your packet a copy of the student school committee members handbook. This was, I don't know if you, hopefully you got a chance to read through it. This was developed by a student member of the Cambridge School Committee. She did a summer internship with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees over a summer and developed this in conjunction with them. It's very thorough, I think. It explains what we do as a school committee, which we have three, for those of you who are new to this, the school committee oversees three main pieces of things. We do the policy, we do the budget, and we review the superintendent. We do her evaluation, or current superintendent is a her, but we do superintendent evaluation and hiring procedures as well. So that's kind of like what the school committee does. This goes a little bit more into detail as to what each of those things are in terms of contract negotiations, advocating for the district students. We are elected to 3-year terms. And then it goes on to kind of talk about the distinction between what we as school committee members do and what you guys do. I guess I want to just ask, did everybody get a chance to kind of read through this prior to this meeting? Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I guess we can open it up for discussion if you have any questions about it rather than me going through it. But it is a comprehensive thing. Definitely hold on to this. I think this is going to be a key piece to how you run your meetings and how you operate. Because towards the back, it does have that section on, you know, what your function is. Is it towards the back?
I just have like kind of a question,
Sure.
kind of a comment. The school committee, the student school committee report doesn't always have to be forced, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I can just write it on a piece of paper and read it out if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Whatever works best for you. You know, obviously, if you can submit it, we can have it typed up and put in the packet.
Yeah.
It's up to you. But
We'll get that done, like, I'll try and have it done for the week before the meeting, not the week before the meeting, but like, try and get everything done then, I'll write it up and send it in.
I think the biggest takeaway from this, and again, if you have questions or comments, please share them. But I think the biggest takeaway is the more engaged you are, the more effective you are. So, you know, as kind of a student version of like what we do, you're going to know what we're doing, but you're also going to try to bring that to the student body and say, you know, here's what's going on. Here's, you know, whether it's a budget item, whether it's a policy, whether it's something, you know, that you feel needs to be addressed on those levels that the school committee works on, you're going to be that go-between in a sense. And this, I thought, outlined really well what makes an effective school committee. And I think those things apply to you as well. So any other questions or any comments? I keep looking at you, but it's only because I can't see them. Sometimes I don't like this setup because I can't see everyone. But so I guess this is going to be your most important document in a sense because it will tell you kind of what, it's kind of the start of the work we're going to do. So if this gets updated, we'll make sure you get an updated copy, but valuable resource. It is located online if you need it. So moving along, next in your packet, you should have the school committee goals. And what we're going to do is we're going to hopefully help you guys create your goals. Again, this is the first meeting, and typically this meeting will eventually become kind of your agenda in a sense, and you guys will come to us saying these are the things that we want to, like, we'll make the agenda together, and we'll say these are things from our side, and you'll say these are things from your side, and we'll make the agenda so it's both. But because this is the first meeting, we kind of took the lead on the agenda because you guys haven't really started your work yet. So kind of starts by making goals so that you know what you're working toward. So in August, every year, the school committee, we meet. We have a what we call a retreat. Andrew came to it this year and got to participate in that process. We kind of look, and this sheet kind of explains what we do a little bit, but we look at the standards for the school from the district improvement plan, which I'm sure that's, yeah, that's not here, is it? But we look at the school's plan for success and the district improvement plan, and it is linked. You can click on it. And we also looked at the surveys. And we use those pieces of information to say, okay, as a school committee, what are we going to focus on this year? What are we going to work toward? And how are we going to keep improving Mashpee as a school district? So you can see we came out with goal 1 during the school year 23-24. The school committee will increase engagement with and participation by all stakeholders as measured by data collected on the annual MPS Family Opinion Survey. And this hits Pillar 4, Mashpee Connective Community, Initiatives 4.4 and 4.5. We can get you that plan for success, but if you have your email in the packet, you can just click on the link and it will bring you to that. Yeah, probably. So, and then after we set that goal, we figure out how we're going to hit that goal. And we try to make them SMART goals. Do you guys, have you ever heard of SMART goals? Yeah? Okay. No? All right. So SMART, it's, why am I blanking on the S right now? It's specific, measurable, achievable, and timely.
Relevant and timely.
Relevant and timely, thank you. Sorry, it's been a long day. My brain is a little mushy right now. I apologize. So that's then what we do with our action steps. We want to make sure that they're smart goals with action steps that we can actually see the improvement. And so you can read through those action steps. We're going to establish drop-in meetings. We're going to have meeting agendas sent out a little bit earlier than we have been, and handouts provided attached to minutes if they were provided prior to. We'll do video follow-ups as well so people know what's going on. Our second goal we set was during school year 23-24, the school committee will engage in activities to inform and educate stakeholders about the role of the school committee as measured by data collected on the annual MPS Family Opinion Survey. We noticed that both the parents and the students didn't really know what school committee did, or that dropped considerably. So we decided that was a good goal to have, let people know like what we do as a committee and how, you know, we can help them and their children, you know, and you as students achieve the things you want to achieve. And again, the action steps are there. I won't read through them. You can read them when you want to. But again, they fall under Pillar 4 Mashpee Connected Community, but you can see the different initiatives that we hit, and they're slightly different than the first one. And then our third goal was the school committee will foster and support a systemic model for student engagement via the Student Advisory Committee, as evidenced by data collected through the annual student survey and reporting out by our student representative. And this hit Pillar 2 and Pillar 4. So that brings us to you all. You are the Student Advisory Committee. So basically, you know, you can see what we've got the meeting schedule here. And we're going to talk about that a little in a few more minutes too. But I think, you know, looking at the handbook and looking at, you know, what our goals are, and then the plan for success and the district improvement plan, and even portrait of a graduate if you want, we can also get you the, you might want to at your next meeting of just you, sit down with those pieces of data and determine what goals you want based on those items. I mean, we can start the conversation here if you want guidance, but I don't know, they probably should look at the student surveys at least, you know, and see that data.
I think I have the student surveys
Okay.
in one of our packets,
Okay.
but if you don't mind sending that.
We can make sure that you have that for the next meeting.
Because how often are you guys meeting right
We're
now?
trying to meet every week.
Okay, all right. Do you guys have any goals off the top of your head that you can think of right now? I mean, I know, again, this is all brand new for all of us, but
That's
Some.
down if no one else wants to. Okay. So this one I think is the most important. That is just all we have to go for is to accurately represent all student voices. Another one I have is increased participation within the student body. Now I don't need, I need to figure out a better wording for this, but we want the student body to actually know what we are and what we do so they feel comfortable and know there's a way of going about getting their thoughts and their opinions to the school committee.
okay.
Also, creating relationships with the greater Mashpee community, because I feel like school, what happens at school doesn't really stay in school, and everyone talks about stuff outside, and just really having everyone know who we are and saying, hey, if you want, knowing who they can talk to, who we can look to for guidance, and just trying to create a better structure going forward. And then this one's more just for our meetings, but I figured
They're your goals, so yeah.
is to create a living document regulate our meetings and proceedings and to just help the people going forward.
Okay, so one thing on that last one, in the handbook, you do have kind of a crash course on Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Order. It's kind of, you probably want to start getting in the habit of that and familiarizing yourself with that, because that is how these meetings operate. And it can't hurt to have that knowledge in your back pocket anyway. I mean,
Do have a constitution,
okay.
but it's really outdated, so we need to update
Okay.
it.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Does anyone else have any ideas on goals?
A thing that I was talking about with one of my teachers was getting like more representation from boys and girls in clubs, because the majority of the clubs that I'm in have a higher percentage of girls than they do boys.
We are working on that.
Yeah.
Me as well.
Okay. I mean, that could almost be a subset off of increased participation with student body. So like that would almost tie under that one. So I think that's pretty good. And you probably could get that information of like who participates from the principal or from all the various clubs. That's the word I'm looking for.
And we just collected that this week.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Oh no, they'll probably be in your packet for Wednesday.
I know last year when Katie O'Neill was working on a science honor
Oh,
society,
yeah.
I sort of tasked her with looking at all the honor societies and giving me who was in them and what representation there was there. And there's definitely a lack of males in our honor society.
That's a good point.
I think that's to do with the application process, not the qualifications.
So I guess my recommendation to you guys, Dawn, do you have any comments? Brian, any comments you want to add to this list that they've kind of outlined? Anybody else?
I don't know if you can hear me, but I would be willing to help do a training or workshop with the group on Robert's Rules of Order. If that's something we can work on, I don't mind helping out with that. And then also to Andrew, I think one of the last things you had mentioned was kind of setting some procedures or working on a document for the next group. I think that that's really important because, I know that we have the handbook that is like kind of the state framework, but the school committee also has our own handbook outside of that and kind of onboarding and stuff like that. So I'd really be interested to see what we can do to help assist you with that as well, see if we can kind of tailor our own handbook or support, whatever those initiatives might be for the group. So I just wanted to also show support for that as well.
All right, thank you. We'll definitely send you an email soon about that, because I definitely think we can use that in our clubs. Not our clubs, our meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you think, based on what you have here too, that you could, maybe not weekly, but regularly have a little segment in the Mashpee Minute?
We've been trying to do that. The forms just came out
I
this
saw that, yeah.
Yep.
week, I think.
But like, do you submit information and people involved with that audiovisual club do it? Or can you, as a member of the student advisory committee, do something?
I was gonna say,
Or
I think
you
we
want-
can connect with some people on the AV club.
Basically, every week, Ms. Frazier sends out an email to the teachers and says, submit any announcements you have, and then they're written into the script, which the script is written every Tuesday. Sometimes
Okay.
it is revised on Wednesday by certain people, meaning me when I'm posting. But yeah, there's definitely, as long as we have it, Mash Minute is filmed today, and then they edit on Thursdays. But yeah, as long as we
Okay.
know that coming week, then.
Okay.
But you could have a block in there where it's not read by one of the anchors. It could be.
That was a little segment.
Yeah, we're constantly bringing in new segments.
Pre-film little thing.
I'll be going,
But the other thing, you guys could rotate it too. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to just, because, we have one representative who sits at our business meetings, but like that's a chance for all of you to get your faces out there and be like, because you all must have different friend groups and you interact with different students. So, getting your faces out there as well is just as important, I think, so that people know who they can approach and talk to about these things. So, Don?
So just a couple thoughts. I think some of these ideas are very noteworthy. I do think updating your constitution or what I would call charter to reflect the organization now, along with creating kind of a working process and procedures is a worthwhile objective. And if you accomplish that, that would be amazing because that would lay the groundwork for the future. I think getting more representation in clubs, both from a equity and from a inclusion, yes, equity and inclusion basis. That's something we've talked about and has been talked about at various levels, and I think is definitely a worthwhile objective. I think it will be critical for you to be able to accurately represent and be that voice for the students. If you accomplish nothing else, that really is creating the substance behind why this group exists, in my opinion. Okay, and that's just if you can achieve those things, I think that's fantastic. I've got something later on the agenda, which is even bigger picture issue that I hope you'll be able to participate on. So I think a great beginning, and just needs a little bit of coddling and formatting and thinking about it. Put it into, and it's not smart goals anymore. It's
Smarty. Sorry.
Smarty.
Yep, there's an I.
The
Thank you, Don.
inclusion and equity components, so we want to make sure that we're using that. So I think a great beginning, and just needs some refinement.
Any questions before we move on? All right, so you guys are clear. You're going to kind of craft these goals a little bit, flesh them out a little bit more. And, you can use our template, use our document as a template if you want, or you can create however you want to create them. But just keep in mind, like, how are you going to measure these things? How are you going to know that what you're doing is effective? And kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And like Don said, communicating. And not just the high school. You guys are representing pre-K to 12, really. Like any student in Mashpee, you guys are the voice. So, and we're going to get into that in a minute, too. So.
One question about
Yeah.
that. I don't know if it's the time, but can we send surveys over there and have them answer?
So that is one thing we're going to talk about,
Okay,
procedures.
sorry.
Don't worry, Ms. Superintendent DeBoer and I talked about that kind of this morning, so don't worry. All right, so moving on. So as members of the Student Advisory Committee, you guys are all able to join the Massachusetts Association of Student Reps, or MASR. It's the state level of kind of what you guys do. There is a website. It's listed there. If you have, again, the email, you can click that link. It'll bring you right to it. They have focused their social media efforts in Instagram. You don't have to do Instagram, but I do think that taking a look, if you haven't already, at their Instagram account, you can see the types of things that they do. And that's, again, the state version. They highlight individual student reps, and sometimes they have their own pages that they'll link in the bio, and you can, search for them and get different ideas of how other students are reaching out to all the grades in their district. But I do think even if you just start with the Mass Student Reps Instagram account, it's a good source of information. That's actually how I found out about the next two, well, one of the next two items. But I highly recommend following it. Again, I don't know if Instagram is still like a thing, but you can develop something at Mashpee that you could use that would get the word out in a similar way. Because like I said, if you find some of these student reps and find their school district's website, and I might have some of them from last year's Summer Institute as well. Some of them were Instagram because it just worked easier. But so they had things that they put out to the like to kids in their district, and they used that as like the communication of, hey, we've got our meeting this week. This is what our agenda is, you know, and just getting that information out so that people know what you're working on, what your goals are, and what you're doing. So that's my push for that. Take a look at it. That leads into the next two things. There are two upcoming events. One's a little short term, but it is on Discord, so you would be able to do it virtually. It's the October networking event, and again, that's all the student reps in the state. You can register. You'll get sent, I guess, the channel to sign into on Discord, and you'll be able to talk to other student reps in other towns throughout the state. It could be worth kind of just going and listening, even if you don't say anything, just to hear the conversations that happen, because they might have ideas that you guys could be like, huh, that might work for Mashpee. The other one's a little bit bigger. It's the delegate assembly, and that's October 23rd from 9 to 4 p.m., and I believe it's in Framingham. Sorry, Brian, yeah? No? Okay, thought I heard something. Sorry, okay. So yeah, those are kind of, and these events probably happen, I'm assuming the networking event is, almost sounds like it's a monthly, maybe quarterly thing. So that might be something to regularly check in on. And if it's virtual, that makes it pretty easy. Hop on Discord, hang out for a few minutes, talk to some other people and see what they're doing in their districts. And maybe that, again, will help you guys. But the delegate assembly is a little bit more of a formal thing. There'll be workshops, there'll be trainings. There'll be ways for you to kind of understand even more what you do as a delegate for this committee that you're on. And there is the link there if you want to register. And I don't know, Superintendent DeBoer, is that?
I just wanted, which I can send this to you electronically, but I gave you all a copy of this email that just came this week. I think it was this week.
Yeah,
yesterday from Megan Lee, who is a Student Advisory Council member. And they have a Southeast Regional Student Advisory Council, and so there are some upcoming dates there, but I think if I forward this email to all of you and you're interested in connecting with her, I think that would be, it was very timely since we were meeting this week. I think it might be worth exploring.
So just, again, to summarize, you got the state level, you've got a regional level, and then you've got like our town. So there's different ways, different, you know, and I know you all are likely involved in many different things. So like, don't feel like you have to sign up for everything, but if you are interested in any of it, you know, check it out. Learn what you can and go to what you can if you want to. I highly recommend it. Learning from your peers is always, I find, valuable. So, you know, again, they've listed their dates for the regional one. I think the Instagram account usually has more, and I think once you register, you should start getting emails from them as well. So if you haven't already registered, we'll get you registered or help you get registered, and then you'll start getting those emails too. So any questions? I know I'm like going a lot here, but I just
wanted to add too, when you glance at the back of this, where they had some of the students share, like the student from Bourne, at the time this was done, the two big things they worked on was that return to post-COVID from in-person hybrid learning, all of that, and then also they were looking at school start time. Now we've done our school start time, but there are often bigger things, but if you look at those two issues, those would have affected everyone in the district. So some of the big things like that. Sometimes you're going to work on something that's very, you know, near and dear to a middle high school student, but then looking more broadly, like traffic is a lovely topic, but not that we can solve that one. But that affects everyone.
But to your point too, Andrew, and thank you for reminding me, and another student does talk about using Google Forms to collect, you know, surveys. So to answer your question, yes, you guys are able to do surveys, you're able, but again, keeping in mind what your goals are and what you're going to bring back to the school committee needs to be policy, budget, or something about the superintendent and her job performance, basically. But it most likely would be policy and budget. So,
And I think the only thing with definitely reaching out to Coombe School students and Quashnet students and then your own peers 7 through 12, whether it's through a survey, is coordinating that, or Mr. Brody maybe having a little bit of review. And then we have to look at the timing, because we just can't always push into classrooms with other things that we're asking them to do. So we have to be a little strategic in when that happens, so we would coordinate that.
I have a question. Could we go to, like, I've had this idea of maybe doing, like, meet with your representatives lunch at one of the schools?
Yeah,
Could we do that?
Yes.
it'd be fun
Love
to go
that
to
idea.
the Coombe School at lunchtime and
We'd be like
sit with all the
rock-
kindergartners.
rock
You would be rock
stars.
stars.
Yeah.
The high school kids are here.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome to do it regularly.
Yeah.
And definitely like the Quashnet School has a 5th and 6th grade student council,
Oh,
not that that's, I mean, they are supposed to be representative of their school as well, but that's a starting point to then branch out to, there are lots of clubs and things here too.
But yes, I think getting out, I mean, I went last year at the national conference. I sat in on a student representative. It was run by the student reps of this district in Maryland. And they had the same like 5 student committee, and they kind of rotated, but their district was huge. They had 40 schools total in their district. And so, yeah, it was massive. And listening to what these kids were doing, though, I was like, oh my, and I shouldn't say kids, what these young adults were doing, they were able to get in, they would rotate their schedule, and they had like time in their day. They had a slightly different schedule than what we have, but they were able to get in and they did recess with the elementary kids. And, if they found out that, maybe budgeting for more equipment was needed, or if they identified that maybe a playground needed some work, like, that was because they were able to see that just as much and hear from the kids, like, Coombe School wants a Coombe School wants a Gaga pit. I don't know if they have one, but I'm just using that as an example. But, you go, and they were hearing those things and seeing those things firsthand and making those relationships. But also, it's a pipeline in a sense for keeping this body going, because kids will be like, oh, I remember when that student rep came. As they get older, they'll remember the interactions with you. And it will encourage them to be participatory too, which is if you go with that first goal that you were talking about, or second goal with student engagement, that's how you build it. It's the more you guys are out there, and I know it's going to be really silly. You're not going to stop people in the hallway and be like, well, what do you need? You could, but it might be weird. So, I don't know. It's up to you. How you handle it. But yeah, I'm just putting that bug in your ear as well, that yes, the goal is to represent all, and not just the high school, or not just the grades that you are in specifically. So keep that in mind. Okay. Any other questions or comments on, and again, if you have a social media platform, like Superintendent DeBoer said, if you might want to run it by either Mr. Brody, by the school, and obviously there'll be guidelines to using it. We don't want everyone to just post whatever, but we also want you to have autonomy in it. So it's, having that discussion of the balance, I guess you could say. So just got to put that disclaimer out there. And then, let's see. So yeah, again, things to think about at your next meeting and talk about, and kind of decide how you want that information going out. All right, any other questions on the state and regional options here for participation? It's like you guys are diving in the deep end here right now. So. Okay, so procedures and processes. We kind of talked about it a little bit. You got the handbook. You've seen how we do like our agendas. Obviously, you don't have to be this formal if you don't want to. You can if you just want to get in the habit of it. It's up to you. Meeting minutes are helpful. I think you mentioned, and Dawn also mentioned, and Brian mentioned that procedure handbook. If you want to create one that is Mashpee specific, I think that's a great idea. I agree completely with my fellow committee members that is, I think, definitely something to strive for. Do you have any questions about the procedures and how anything that we can answer to help you guys, move forward? I know, again, putting you on.
I have a question, but I don't know how to phrase it. So this is a joint meeting, so we can vote on stuff at the joint meeting.
Yes.
So we need to start it like one of our meetings and end it like one of our meetings, right?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Sorry, I just have to get used to that.
Which in theory, since this was a joint agenda, once we complete the agenda, the meeting would end.
Okay. Thank you.
So do you now, or do you plan to do agendas for your meetings when you're weekly with Mr. Brody kind of thing?
We've been planning on doing it. We're just getting everyone there is
Well, weekly is
mainly
a
the
lot.
objective.
Yeah, weekly is a lot.
I was gonna say, weekly, you might wanna
It's
think.
aggressive.
I might try to take it back, but like for just like the 5, have it weekly, because I feel like I want to try and have as much communication as possible. I think I'm also annoying some people while doing that. So.
I mean, to Superintendent DeBoer's point, weekly might be challenging as people have sports and activities and and homework and just tests to study for. I mean, I applaud your enthusiasm for it, but maybe a bi-weekly, maybe even monthly for the,
Yeah.
we have these meetings every other month with the school committee and with you, and that's where we would have, like, we would bring our things that we would like to bring to you, and you would bring your things that you would like to bring to us kind of situation. But your meetings yourselves, that's your work you're working on. So again, if you think weekly is what you want, but personally, I think I might do bi-weekly just because, again, gives you guys a little time to kind of work on, and Dawn and Brian chime in at any point, but I think bi-weekly gives you time to digest what was discussed, maybe gather information you might need to gather between one meeting to the next, because sometimes you are going to want a little bit of time to kind of process what you're hearing and what you're working on. But again, that's my 2 cents. So.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So are you 5 part of a bigger student council?
Yes.
How many are there of those people? 2 from every grade, or?
It's we're trying to get more people from every grade. We don't really have a limit right now. We just want people to join.
Okay.
We have like 20.
It depends on the day.
Yeah, we've been getting more freshmen.
We've been getting more.
Yeah.
Not upperclassmen, lowerclassmen, which
Yeah.
is good because before it was like only upperclassmen. Now we have freshmen, and do we have 8th grade? One.
We have 1 sophomore.
Yeah. I thought we had.
We don't have any middle schoolers though.
That was one of the things last we were trying to get kind of in check.
So maybe that could be also something the group works on. But so when you meet weekly, it's this bigger group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and so that's another differentiation. Technically, we kind of bypassed it a little bit. Like, the Mass General Law says you were all supposed to be elected specifically to this body, but because it was new and we didn't quite have totally Mr. Brody felt it was best to kind of pick from the student council. And that's fine, but it does, when you read the Mass General Law, technically you guys are a separate thing from the student council. Like, you can meet with the student council, and you can be student council members, but technically your role as the student advisory committee is separate from the student council. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like, you can talk to student council, but their goals and objectives are not going to be your goals and objectives. Does that make sense? Okay.
But I think they could give you feedback
Yes.
if you do
Yeah.
your work as a
Yes.
group of 5
We've
and get input.
Sorry. We've just been kind of like not doing the same things. We've been trying to take more of like the like policy and budget and stuff and put that towards us, and like anything else that needs to go to student council goes to that student council.
Okay.
And student council would be much more focused 7 to 12
Yeah.
than a K to 12 approach.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments on procedures and processes? No? Yeah, I think you guys are in a good direction if you're going to focus on that book and that document. I think that's really going to help with that. So, again.
Do do you want to establish any, so in between these every other month meetings, is there a communication protocol like this? Andrew reach out to you or any member, or do you go through me or both? Or like, what if you had a question that would impact your work or something? I don't know. How do you want them to do that?
My inclination is to say the chair would talk to the rep, to the student, to the one that's delegated to the committee,
And vice versa.
and vice versa. That's not to say that you can't, and I'm speaking on behalf of my fellow committee members, but I'm sure any of us would be happy to hear from you at any time if you do have questions or comments. But I think, like, officially, if you need things communicated, it's probably best to go through the chair. But again, if there's other things you want to talk about to the committee, I mean, our emails are all open for the most part, so I would say definitely don't feel like, but officially the chair. Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna let Don take this next one, as this was his agenda item to kind of discuss. So Don, MMHS programming.
So this item mirrors an item that's going to be on the school committee agenda, I believe the next meeting. I've been thinking about it here over the last couple of years in regard to the programs that we have, particularly at the high school. We've added some, taken a few away. We are a very people-sensitive organization. So if we have teachers who have expertise in certain areas and or we have funding in order to be able to hire people, we've been able to go in this direction or that direction. Most recently, the ambulance and the healthcare initiative that was added was something that we never had in the past, and hopefully is something that people will take advantage of, and they'll be able to continue that into the future. Expanding upon that, then the question becomes, well, what else should be sacred to us? What stuff is stuff that maybe we can't maintain or shouldn't maintain going forward, as far as from an academic offering perspective. We don't offer every language in the world. There's 142 countries and thousands of languages. We offer, I think, three different ones. And so, are those the right ones? Are people interested in those subjects? Or is there another subject that we should be putting our resources behind? And, I'm not looking for a snap answer on this. I think this is a big picture question that's going to take a little while to work through. From a school committee perspective, I'm looking for this to be referred to the curriculum subcommittee. So we have subcommittees who handle certain aspects at the school committee level in conjunction with the administration. And so I'm looking for that to get referred to that subcommittee so that they can start to try to tease that apart and say, hey, what should we be known for here in Mashpee? What are the areas of excellence that we want to maintain or that we want to have? And obviously that would impact each and every one of you potentially in the future. If there's something that we're not offering that you think we should be offering, or something that we are offering and there's not enough desire to maintain that, then that could affect you. And obviously there's a whole core of academic requirements that we don't have a lot of flexibility on, but there are some that we do, and this really is affecting the ones we do, or our languages which ones that we potentially would offer. And I don't have a preconceived answer. I do recognize that, when I look at the current staff that we have, unfortunately, just like myself, they're getting older, I'm getting older, and I'm not going to be doing this forever. They're not going to be doing their roles forever. And so we have to plan well in advance of when change happens to be able to safely steer the organization in the right direction to be able to meet as many people's needs as possible. And so what I would look for this group to help facilitate is, getting feedback through surveys, comments, discussions that you have of how and what you think is important. So, and I had this all written down somewhere, but off the top of my head, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's been a few years since we've done a big picture shakeup of things here. I think the last one I did was start time, and I think we survived that one. So it's time to do barely. It's time to start thinking about something new. So, any questions? Wow.
I just want to piggyback off of what Dawn said too about the subcommittees. As student reps, you are able to join our subcommittees for the school committee. So if one of you wanted to attend that curriculum subcommittee meeting, you would be able to. It might be during school hours, which could be tricky, but we can figure that out if we get to that point. But you are able, we have various subcommittees, so you guys amongst yourselves, amongst the five of you, it could be Andrew, but where he goes to the big meeting, maybe one of you would rather cover a subcommittee meeting and bring it back to the five of you and say, this is what the subcommittee talked about, this is what I brought up from our standpoint, so keep that in the back of your mind as well, and we can get you the list of the subcommittees. But that is also, something that is outlined in the handbook as your participation options as well. So you're able to really get in that conversation and say, hey, I need better music programs, and I think the Coombs School and the Quashnet School do too, so that we've got a healthier music program. What can we do budget-wise to build up our music program? Again, just using an example, but you could sit there at that curriculum meeting and say, what is the music curriculum right now? What do we fund? What funding is behind it? How does that, and these are the conversations, and I know it seems really big level, but you guys can handle it. So I think that's why you're here. So that's.
And we could have the subcommittee meetings take place at the high school, so if you were able to get out of a class, you won't have to have a transportation issue because we can go up there. And just to follow up, Mrs. Lewis did speak a little bit about music. That, and I know Andrew's involved with music, and I don't know who else Marilee is. That definitely is something that starts with the feeder program at Quashnet. So whatever strengths or deficits we need to address there to build it up. I think Eve is fond of theater. Just
another program that.
And we have now, like what Mr. Myers said, sometimes it's very personnel specific. So we have a teacher at Quashnet who loves theater. So she's been doing these after school programs that have 40 kids involved with these productions. That is going to feed, and we have to make sure the middle school, whether it's a school day offering, which I think we finally got, I don't know if it's running this year, those after school to build that up and building up the chorus, building up the band.
But even, to Dawn's point, if you're looking at classes, let's say, you can have an English class that's a drama class. There are English classes that would meet the English requirement that is a drama, it's drama.
Do you have drama this year during the school day as an offering? Why are you laughing at that, Mr. Mayor?
I was going to say, every day.
I come speak to him about my problems at school. We do not this year. Last year we did have a theater.
You did those great.
We
did that great pow pow fish thing.
Pow pow fish.
That was awesome.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So why why don't we have it this year?
We do not have it this year as we just did not have enough people sign up. Unfortunately, most people, including myself from last year, just there's not enough time in our school day to do as many classes as I would love to do.
And then that does factor into it. I mean, I heard at open house, I think Mrs. T said there's 4 pottery classes, and they're all full, like 25 to 30 kids in each class taking pottery repeatedly, like and going up to, you're in it?
Yeah, I'm like a,
They don't all need to be pottery.
what's the word I'm looking for? Like a mentor in it.
Got it.
So I help out.
Yeah.
So it's busy.
Yeah, and that kind of surprised me. I was like, and she said that you guys get rid of like the fashion design and you got rid of photography, and I was like,
Well, photography, I know, it's a new club.
it's a club,
creation.
which is, and that's good. But I thought fashion design, that was an interesting one to get rid of. But is there drawing? Is there, do you have sketch, watercolor? Like, different? Are there different art classes that other people, if they had the option to take? To Don's point, are we missing something, or is pottery just that awesome? I mean, I don't doubt Mrs. T is amazing to have as a teacher, but is pottery the art that everybody
It
wants
kind
to
of
take?
blew up this year. Last year we had 2.
I was shocked when she said what she said.
We had 2.
There's been a lot of cutting back on courses this year. A lot of the courses of CTE courses are not running. The academic courses are what takes away from the CTE courses.
But even in the academics, are you guys feeling, and this is something, again, for you to go back to the students and say, do we feel like we have the academic pieces? Don used languages. We had Wampanoag for a little while here, and we had it at the high school too. Is that something that we need to look at funding and, see how that works? Are there other math classes? Like, do you have all of the math classes? Like, is there a trigonometry, a calculus? Like, are they all covered? Do you have what you want? Is there another type of math class, like statistics, that I'm sure you have statistics, but you know what I'm saying? Like, looking at that big picture is what Don's saying, but these are the things that you guys can get your feet. Like, you're living it. You're living it, and you're also talking to the other people who are living it, whereas we're kind of higher level. And so we depend on what you guys are talking about and saying, okay, the school committee wants this to be something they're focusing on. How do we bring this to the masses, and how do we work on that? Any other questions, comments? Okay. So we included a calendar. We kind of set up the law, the Mass General Law that governs your student advisory committee states that you have to meet with the full school committee, which quorum constitutes. You have to meet with the quorum of the full school committee every other month of the year that school's in session. So this is our first one. So our next one, I think we did. So we skipped November. We have these tentatively listed. However, I know one member has recently been appointed. He's on a committee through his work. He won't be able to attend these Tuesday night meetings. I know, or Wednesday night. I'm sorry, the holidays throw me off. He won't be able to attend. And then another one of our members, he's our representative to the Cape Cod Collaborative. So these days also are difficult for him to attend as well. So that being said, do we like this day and time? Is there another day and time? And I know that might be iffy because we don't know winter sports schedules yet, or spring sports and theater schedules and band things and chorus things. We don't know. So I guess I'm just asking, is there another day of the week? They don't have to be in person. I prefer them in person because I like to see all of you. I feel like we get more when we're in person personally. But they don't have to be. We can do hybrid meetings if we need to. So keep that in mind too. And, obviously if life happens and you have stuff, like if you've got a game, go to your game. It's not the end of the world. Don't feel like you have to, but I guess, does this day work? Do we want to look at a different day of the week? Does this time work? Do we want to look at a different my life as well, and driving back and forth, so thank you for giving me more information than I got at home. Okay.
And I'm just throwing this out there, would you ever be open to morning, like at 7 to 8?
I'm gonna nix
I'd
that
be
for
open
them.
to it. I don't know about my peers, but.
All right, so no one likes that idea. So like later than at 5:30, is it better to do your afternoon things and then do it at 7?
Kind of like 5:30. I don't know about anyone else.
Super 5:30, what do you guys think?
Yeah, 5:30.
Okay, 5:30 is good, we get the time.
Around 7, I can check out.
Yeah.
We don't want checklists. We need engagement. Okay.
What day of the week?
Do you guys have any preference on days of the week?
Yeah, Wednesday's good.
Monday's good.
Do we look at the first or the fourth Wednesday?
My schedule's pretty free after like 4:30, so.
So the one on the 13th of December is the next one, and that is the second Wednesday. The 6th is something. Not the 27th, I don't know. Oh, the 20th, I think we have school committee.
We do.
So it would have to be the 6th is a potential change.
Okay. Brian, do these dates work? I know tribal council sometimes meets on Wednesday. What are you the first and third, or are you the second and fourth for your schedule?
It depends. Sometimes it is the second and third, or sometimes they're right back to back. But I'll make sure I send out that schedule and accordingly as well.
Okay, I just wanted to check before we started, like, kind of figuring that out. Okay,
Thank you.
of course. Okay, so tentatively moving the December to the 6th. Then we have budget season, and then January, January we're kind of stuck with for the budget stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we have the option of, there's a concert on the 24th.
The 24th, you said there was a class.
Yeah, so the 31st is, we have 5 Wednesdays in January, maybe that won't be a problem for anybody.
True. Okay. And then that's April 7th, which is. That's the first. That one's already
That's the first, that might be okay.
And then the 29th is the last.
Yeah, that's getting very close to, graduation is like the first. We'll probably both be
Also
doing
here.
the senior stuff for that week.
I can make that.
Who's sorry, you're our other senior? No. Silas.
So, yeah.
Right.
Well, Silas is
Red
okay,
Sox
but-
game and all that stuff that people always do.
Maybe.
Well, we can leave it there for now until we know
Yeah.
for sure. So what Monday is that one? That's the, again, it's the 5th Monday, so that might work out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday.
I mean, sorry. I meant Wednesday.
Okay. All right, so it was just the next one we have to change. Or
Well,
we don't have to,
good,
but
I guess it's checking with that.
yeah.
Do
Okay.
you want to put that on the 18th agenda?
Could we please?
Potentially, look
Yeah.
at that date. So this is in this case,
Thank you.
adding that one.
Okay, then we'll hold off, I think, on approving this until we talk next week, but if you guys, I'm getting kind of a consensus that you guys are okay with 5:30 Wednesdays with the dates that we just went over. Okay, so we'll just have the school committee kind of review this as well and make sure these dates work for the school committee. But we'll plan on, as of right now, our next meeting will be December 6th at 5:30 here. agenda. Are there any items that we did not know of in advance that anyone wants to talk about?
If you want to talk about something, do we want
So we did make a list, I'll go over it really quickly, of just questions we have for you, based on what we kind of have heard from our peers and what we think. So one of our first speeches was, we have a lot, I will say that we have more discipline this year than we have in the past. But I still have seen, and I know some other people have seen, that sometimes teachers don't always hold those expectations, which I've been told I'm not a very tolerant person, but I know other people are kind of frustrated with the fact that we are given expectations and the teachers don't always get to do as you know. And that can take away from learning time, that can take and add distraction.
And so on that one, that sounds a little bit more operational, which might be a discussion that Principal Messini and Superintendent DeBoer. But that's good, again, it's good for us to know as well, and we can make sure Superintendent DeBoer follows up on that.
Could you give me like just one example of what you're talking about?
Sorry. Sorry.
Sorry, what were you asking?
Oh, I was just asking for an example of what you just talked about, where teachers don't hold students to the expectations for behavior and it's taking away from learning.
So I know some of my teachers, I'm not gonna say any names in this example, but yeah. So someone else will have their phone out and they'll be like, oh hey, put your phone away. And then some other kid will have their phone out and they'll just be like, okay, slip. And I don't understand where the thought process is.
So there's no continuity
Yeah.
in enforcing the policies that
Yeah.
are in place.
I've also heard, don't do it again. And the next time you do it, don't do it again.
Yeah.
So that's definitely operational, but it does tie into policy, so we can, like I said, what we can do is we can say to Superintendent DeBoer, you look into this, and so she will.
So I just want to make a comment. So I find it interesting that the criticism or critique is really in regard to enactment of it versus the the actual establishment of the rule. So, I agree, it should be consistent, but
If I may comment on that, I think now that schools have gotten going and people have gotten over that initial hump, I feel like a lot of people are seeing how it's benefiting the school. I know I like walking in the hallways and talking to people. I don't like when everyone's like this. It's nice to walk in the hallways and talk to your friends. And I think people are starting to see the benefit of not having phones.
in that example.
Yeah.
Another thing is, due to our changing schedule this year, we have a longer homeroom, but we only have 3-minute passing times. I walk fast, but other people don't. So I heard a lot of people saying it's just too short. They're constantly constantly late. And if I'm being completely honest, no one really does take my turn. You always kind of sit there. So exactly. So, and I know it's kind of touched on when we were making this list that in some eyes, the time in homeroom we feel could be sacrificed for a minute longer at call time, if possible.
We know learning time and
Yeah.
stuff is hard to work out. So we're just
And again, policy, that's more procedural, so again, we would pass that to the procedure people, to the operations side of it.
Yeah, and then the other thing would probably be
Operational. be something because that's a budget item and in our capital improvement plan, so, and it will probably be listed in our, when we go over, I think our next meeting we're talking.
It's already.
And it's already, yeah, it's already
It's
approved,
in the-
Yeah.
so.
Because I was told, I used to do the enactment, and I was told at the end of last year that they were having it replaced, which is nice because then I wouldn't have to be asked every 5 minutes when it's getting replaced. But we do feel like sometimes it could be a safety issue if there was an Alex trail because it's tons of people cutting in and out and bills aren't always there.
And so that, so again, that's a great example of what you would bring to this body, because that is something that we can then look at the budget and say, okay, there's a need, they've identified, you know, you had a safety reason behind it. That's something that you would definitely bring to us, and as a school committee, we would then put it on one of our agendas and look at the budget, and then Andrew, or whoever the representative after Andrew is, would also be in those budget discussions too, and understand, hey, you know, you guys could bring that up, but then whoever the rep is could be like, our last meeting, here's the budget, it's right there in the CPC, you know, the community preservation, or the, community preservation. We're gonna say your capital improvement, committee are working on, you know, like, and get that information that you can then say, hey guys, new PA system's coming, don't worry, like, and, you know, or a new scoreboard, or the lights in the parking lot are always like dark, how do we, you know, make sure we've got better light bulbs, you know, things like that.
It's generally a time issue.
It is. Again, I'm using random examples coming to my head, not necessarily ones here in Mashpee, but those things that are budget items that we would need to make sure we've got things in the budget for, you know, curriculum, facilities, like some of it is facilities, some of it's DPW, but it's still something we can work on. So as you guys are doing your work, think of, those are the things that, you know, if it's something that's like in the school that the principal might have set as a policy, or that, not a policy, but if the principal made a rule, that might be something we would say, no, that's, you know, go back to the principal or go to superintendent DeBoer and talk there, but I think that's a good start, so thank you for bringing those, appreciate it. Any other questions, comments, anything not known prior to tonight? Okay.
I guess I have a question.
Yes.
My question, I guess, is more for, I guess, the superintendent, or I guess the school committee members. In regards to the student advisory committee, we have a budget or a line item, or with some of their expenses come out of the school committee line items. And the only reason why I ask that is because obviously they need the tools and the resources to be successful. A lot of these things that they would like to do might not require a monetary value. But when we have to do fundraisers, there would be something that there's a budgeted line item to help them with some of their endeavors. And then also when it comes to like outreach, or, you know, if they wanted to attend the National School Board Association conference, you know, what does that look like? Even though they're not technically on the school committee, I know that we're all required to attend charting the course, which is like an introductory to school committee, and so on and so forth. So I know there are trainings and things out there, so just really kind of asking, you know, what we're committing to, or if that's something that we need the group to kind of come back to us and see, you know, what that budget might look like, but just want us to also keep that in mind so that we have the resources available for them to be successful as well.
That's a great point, Brian. Thank you. I agree, you know, and I think that's why we did bring up the different events. That delegate assembly, like I said, if you get a chance to look at the agenda for it, those trainings you mentioned, Brian, it's not necessarily charting the course. They don't need to go as in depth, but I know they have that. I don't know, I haven't totally looked to see if they have virtual options for that, and if there is something that you guys come across as you're getting into these things, and you're like, hey, there's a training here on this day. I know that they do Student Rep Day on the Hill, which is similar to our school committee day on the Hill for legislative things. So there are opportunities for you guys to get that learning. And I think to Brian's point, maybe as we get into the budget season, we look at, you know, where that line item lives and where that is, because if they do need to register and pay for these programs, because it is, a legal committee, charged by the state and the general laws, I feel like some of that does
Yeah, I
fall
can
on
check
us.
with Ashley as to whether it would be part of the school committee line item or sort of extra identified underneath that piece.
Like a subset of the school committee line.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, great point. Don, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Not tonight.
All right. All right, well, can we adjourn first? Okay. Brian, she wants a picture, so don't leave. But we're gonna stand in front of you. And, okay, so, the agenda's dispensed with, so we don't need a motion, we're gonna adjourn, we're all set. So thank you again all for coming to this first meeting and sharing with us the fumbling and all of it, but we're getting there.